Hello, this is Aaron to you too. Continuing our series of Dragon Warrior Randomizer, different enemies and things like to go over. We're going to go over mid-game enemies today, and we're going to get started right off the bat. First thing, what about mid-game enemies? Well, many mid-game enemies have a gimmick. So, either high resistance to something or a noticeable weakness that can be exploited. Learning these will help you fight them, or help you judge when you can fight them. They will appear anywhere except zones 0, 1, and 2, and in Sharlock. Almost all enemies on this list are useful targets for Hurtmore, except where specified below. So that's something, if you have Hurtmore, usually, fighting the mid-game is just super easy, useful, great. But if you don't, you're going to put a little bit more thought into that. At least I would suggest that you do it. So, moving along, Wraith has 30 to 39 hit points, 42 experience, his double dodge, and a 7 out of 16 sleep resist. So not really worth fighting this way. They are basically a tougher and more annoying wolf with just a little more XP. So, I tend to not talk really good about the Wraith, but you're still usually happy to see it. Because the thing about mid-game enemies is when you want to see mid-game enemies, it doesn't really matter which one specifically, with a few exceptions. You usually kind of want to grab them as a whole. So, Spectre has 25 to 33 hit points. It's the lowest of this group with, again, one exception. There's two enemies that are big exceptions, which we'll get to kind of as a little bit of a breather here in the middle. They have 47 XP. They have 4 times dodge, so they're a little dodgy, but only 3 out of 16 resist, so still viable to use sleep strats if you need to. If you're a little bit weaker, you can't take many hits. Same HP as Wolf, but same strength, but more XP makes them usually a good fight. Usually I'm pretty happy to see a Spectre and less happy to see a Wraith, but very likely to try to fight both of them unless they have something that's going to be debilitating. Next enemy on the list here is the Wolf Lord. 28 to 37 hit points, 52 experience, 2x dodge, and a 4 out of 16 sleep resist. They are a strength-focused enemy, but unremarkable. They're more challenging than Wolf or Spectre, and worth just a little more. So, I'm usually fairly happy to see a Wolf Lord, but efficiency-wise, a Wolf is actually more efficient than a Wolf Lord. But you'll take either. And again, the sleep resist, every enemy in this range has like something kind of unique about sleep or something like that. It creeps up a little bit, but you can still use sleep on a Wolf Lord and not feel, you have a 75% chance of it working. So, excuse me. The Druin Lord has 27 to 35 hit points, 58 experience, that 4 times dodge, and 15 out of 16 sleep resist. So they're basically fully resistant to sleep, but weaker than Wolf Lords, and usually a welcome sight. Like, you're usually pretty happy to find a Druin Lord, even though you can't sleep them. So there's some scenarios where you're really relying on sleep that you're just going to be kind of bummed out. It's a little weird. Let me actually pop that up where you can see it. I'll go right here. So, but that doesn't come up that often, so there we go. Droll Magis are 33 to 44 hit points. Yeah, that's right. 58 experience, same as the Druin Lord. Only 2 out of 16 sleep resist, no extra dodge resist. They have higher HP and agility than other enemies of this range, which makes them a little more annoying, but low sleep resist makes them possibly just a lot easier to fight early on to you know, snipe before you should. A good target to snipe from a lower level. And of course, it dies the same way all these enemies die to hurt more. We haven't seen any hurt more resist yet. We're going to get to that in just a moment. Wyvern has 28 to 37 hit points, 64 experience, 2 times dodge, 4 out of 16 sleep resist. I'm not condensing the fractions for you. You can figure it out. They are also strength focused, much like the Wolf Lord, but no more HP, which makes them great hurt or fairy water targets early if you can take 2 hits. Yeah, the Wyvern is, you know, compare it to the Wolf Lord, 52 experience, 64, same hit points, same dodge and sleep resist, but it does hit a little bit harder. The Wyvern specifically has, looking for it in my papers here, yeah, it's 56 strength compared to the Wolf Lord, it has 50. It also has a lot more agility, 48 to the Wolf Lord's 36, but I really like Wyverns as, like, they're one of my favorite things to see once you get into that range. They're just a little strong, though, so if you're low on HP, they might not be fightable. Again, you could try to put them to sleep. That is something that definitely can work. So now we're going to take a bit of a break from the serious enemies and go on to some of the less serious ones. The Metal Slime is the Metal Slime and the Goldman tend to be kind of meme-y enemies in the game. But they do count as mid-game enemies because they follow in the same rules as every other one here. So Metal Slime has 3 hit points, but 255 agility, which means it's the enemy that's most likely to ambush you. It also has 15 out of 16 hurt resist, so casting hurt or hurt more isn't a very viable strategy. It gives 255 experience or 32 experience per level if you have scaled Metal Slime's flag on, which is currently the meta for standard and what you would see in the training tournament. Which means until level 8, like at level 7, it's going to give 224. Level 4, it's going to give 128. Like, the experience will build up as your levels increase, basically to keep you from wandering off, killing a Metal Slime, gaining 255 experience, and breaking out of an early rough start just free by complete randomness, which can happen. So until you have 131, until 131 AP, doing 50-50 for 1 damage, but crits will but any crit will kill post, like, I think, is it 7 AP? Yeah, so if you have 7 AP, if you crit a Metal Slime, you'll automatically kill it. It's good to know. They will attempt to run when you are at 20 plus strength. So they won't unless you have the Scared Metal Slime's flag on, which is not in the meta right now, but which means they always try to run. So the way running works, and we didn't really talk about this before, but that means they have a 25% chance whenever it's their turn to just run, and they always succeed if they run. They also, any enemy that is in a state where it will run has a 25% chance to run before anything is rolled. So even if they don't ambush you, they have a 25% chance to just run before anything can happen. So it can be pretty, random. Amazing XP to get early on, but most often kind of a time waster. They tend to run at such rates that it can be a bit frustrating to have to deal with them just because you don't get a lot out of it. But sometimes you do. I don't know the exact percents, but it has been calculated out that swinging on a Metal Slime gives you a higher chance to kill it than casting hurt or hurt more. Either one of them would hurt. It would do the same. And if I didn't mention it before, hurt resist is any hurt spell. So hurt or hurt more, they operate the exact same way in that regard. If you try to use Torch or a Fairy Water, the game has been programmed so that instead of doing the damage values associated with it, it does 50-50 to do 0 to 1. So it's literally the exact same as your swing, except it can't be dodged and it can't crit. And generally speaking, Metal Slime doesn't really have any dodge either, so that generally works against you as well. Might be worth throwing a torch out if you've already done 2 damage on it, just to increase your odds by like the slimmest amount, but I don't think anyone thinks about that. Alright, the next enemy, the Goldman, who has 38 out of the 50 hit points. That's actually the highest of the mid-game enemies. Mid-game enemy HP range, or maybe I should say, once you get into the Sharlock enemies, the last group, the hit points jump up tremendously. This group is scaled fairly, not a whole lot of differences, so. It does give 6 experience and 650 gold. That's a lot of gold, and that's the reason fighting them. They also have 13 out of 16 sleep resist, which is weird. Put only anything in game that has 13 out of 16 for anything. It's so weird. I think it's an error. I think it's supposed to be 3 out of 16 and they programmed something wrong. But that's just me. It's unofficial. So they are a weird enemy in many ways who gives a ton of gold and very little else. Most often people just run and ignore them. However, if you need, like, killing one of them gives you a hand axe. That's great. They're a hard enemy to hurt or fairy water down, because even though they don't have very high stats otherwise, like the HP is their highest stat, their strength is lower than a Wolf Lord, and their agility is the same as the Druin Lord. They just, I don't know. And I always say to hurt more the first one you can. The first one you can for good luck. I don't actually do it unless, if you're gonna run out of MP, but that's my superstition. They do better when the game likes it when you try to fight a Goldman. Anyway, the last 4 enemies here are kind of the harder tier. The Wyvern is pretty approachable. The rest of these 4, you generally have to have something to get into their weaknesses. The Rogue Scorpion here, 30 to 40 hit points, 70 XP, has double dodge, 7 out of 16 strength resist, but 90 agility, which is the same as a red dragon, so can be hard to hit, and has 3rd highest ambush rate in game, just behind the Metal Slime and the final form of the Dragon Lord. So they can be killed at a lower level with 3 hurt or fairy waters, though if you can withstand his damage. Rogue Scorpion has 60 strength. It's the highest we've seen so far, but it's also every enemy from here on has more. So it's, like I said, this final group is kind of the turning point where things really start to tweak up a bit. You can sleep one if you can't take the damage against 7 out of 16 resist. So it's a little bit more than a coin flip in your favor, but I usually, again, a decent hurt more target, but the ambush rate is annoying. They have a high tendency to hit you. But a lot of times, if you end up with like Erdrick's armor and the silver shield early, you'll be defense breaking a Rogue Scorpion really quick. So Wraith Knight has 30 to 40 hit points, 72 experience, 4 times dodge, 3 out of 16 hurt resist, and 5 out of 16 sleep resist. The first non-meme enemy to have hurt resist. There aren't very many of them in the game, honestly, but the Sharlock enemies, we're going to be getting into that here pretty quick. But I would say, but still a good hurt more target. They are strength focused, which usually means that enemies that are strength focused are actually really good to fight because they tend to be softer and easier to kill. So as long as you have heal more, that you can withstand its damage, they're pretty good to fight. I'd say normally a good fight and can be beat in a variety of ways, but their mild resistances to, you know, hurt more and to sleep. Plus dodge ability, that 4x dodge can make them a bit trolly. So they're not a super reliable fight. It's still a good enemy to do, and the same thing I said about Rogue Scorpions you can do on a Wraith Knight, especially Fairy Waters. 3 Fairy Waters will have a very high chance of killing a Wraith Knight, but you might need another one. You know, something like that. Average Fairy Water damage is 12.5, so you're looking at 37.5 on average. So decent odds, not guaranteed. Just depends on how much you want to trust in that, I suppose. Alright, going into our last groups of enemies here. A second. There we go, sorry. I have my thing on the left here that I'm kind of looking at to speak. It's blocked. So we have the Knight, who has 36 to 47 hit points, 78 experience, 6 out of 16 sleep resist. So they also have 76 strength and 70 agility, which is just below what Sharlock enemies have. These last 3 all hit really hard, so it's something to keep in mind. And it makes them hard to take down, but a prime hurt more candidate. Sleep strats, occasionally useful. I mean, your mileage may vary. If you have a lot of attack power but not a lot of hit points or heals, sleep might be a good strat. Again, 6 out of 16 resist is, you know, 37.5%, so it's a little more than 1 out of 3 times they're going to fail it. So it just, I don't know. The 78 agility makes them a little bit hard to run from as well. I haven't talked about running. That's probably its own video. But, you know, all of the mid-game enemies are okay to run from. It's when you get in the Sharlock ones that it becomes a pain. And by okay, I mean if you have 40 agility, you're a favorite to run from them. So, and 40 is about half of what you want by the end of the game. Anyway, moving on. Magiwyvern, 36 hit points, 36 to 48 hit points, 83 experience, 6 times dodge, 2 out of 16 sleep resist. However, they are the best experience efficiency for hurt more, because they will always die in 1 hurt more. They have no hurt resist, worth 83 experience. Compare that to like an Axe Knight's 130. It's less, but an Axe Knight has about that same odds, a little more than 50% that 1 hurt more will kill it. So the Magiwyvern tends to be a little safer. Unfortunately, you can't find them on a spike. However, and they are also very weak to sleep if you don't have hurt more. It's actually a very common strat. If somebody sees a Magiwyvern at kind of a, you know, level 7, level 8, where they have a decent amount of attack power, but they can't take hits, they'll throw a sleep out on the Magiwyvern and try to take it down in 3 or 4 hits. Their agility is a little bit lower than the Knight, so I think they're guaranteed. I would say once you're around 50, well, let me rephrase that to make it a little bit better. At 74 attack power, you're guaranteed to do 10 damage if you land a hit. You do 10 to 20. That's probably a pretty good range to try to consider fighting them in that manner. And 74 strength, if you can find, or attack power, if you can find a weapon, isn't too hard to get to in most seeds. Now, our last enemy on here, the dreaded Demon Knight. Let me bump that up just a little bit to make sure you can see it. 29 to 38 hit points, 90 experience, 15 times dodge, 15 out of 16 hurt more resist, 15 out of 16 sleep resist. You know, I didn't mention that before. They also have, these guys up here have 15 out of 16 sleep resist. So, let me, Alright, you know what? We're just going to undo what we did. Just don't worry about that. You can't sleep a metal slime either. The formatting got all screwed up. Anyway, not going to redo it. But they are virtually immune to hurt more and sleep and dodge 25% of the time. Yay. They're just, they kind of suck as an enemy. However, they are a bit squishy. Also worth mentioning, they only have 64 agility, which means, again, around 70 damage. You're a pretty decent 2 to 3 shot. They're not a bad enemy to fight if you have to. It's just the dodging almost 25% of the time makes them kind of painful. So that's all we got today for mid-game enemies. I know it was a little bit longer, but I didn't really want to break this up into 2 after we were done. After all, hopefully we'll get a video up about Sharlock enemies, which will go into some Spike fight information. Probably be about as long as this one. And that'll wrap it up for this series. So thank you very much, and hopefully this helps you learn how to fight some of the Dragon Warrior enemies.